Welcome back, Hell Hounds. My name is Michelle, and this is Horror Book Hell Hounds. So today's video is going to be very chaotic, very jumbled. You're probably going to hear a squeaky toy going on in the background a lot. I do apologize for that. I have a new puppy. His name is Reaper. And he is very much in the I must chew everything stage. So he has some new squeaky toys to kind of keep him contained. I know that I have definitely been missing out on uploading videos here recently. I have not been sticking to the schedule that I laid out for myself, and I do apologize for that, you guys. There has been so much going on in my life here lately that I just needed to take a break. I needed to focus on real world things happening right now. So good news is I did purchase my very own home. I'm just going to put it out there. It is an RV. I could not for the life of me settle on a house, like a regular house that was stuck to one location. I have a lot of things that I want to do with my life that involve traveling, moving around, things like that. So finally, I convinced my mom to help me get an RV. For right now, we are going to put it on her property because my mom loves me. Thank God. And yeah, we're just going to go from there. So hopefully sooner rather than later, my videos will start having a brand new background and you guys can see my new home. But for today, I know we're already halfway through June, but I did want to do a quick reading recap with you guys on what I read in May because I read some fucking bangers last month and I really don't want to miss the opportunity to tell you guys about it. So let's get started. So for starters, I read the next two novels in the Carpathian series by Christine Feehan. So that is Dark Gold and Dark Magic. Now, I absolutely hate when they do these mass paperback covers with actual people on them, mainly because I like to use my own imagination to kind of like conjure up what these characters would look like. And no offense, but neither one of these guys, maybe this one, looks remotely like what I picture. But anyway, for those of you who are familiar with the series, Dark Gold is Aiden, right? Aiden Savage's story, and Dark Magic is Gregory's story. Gregory and Savannah. I love them both. This book is actually the first book of the Carpathian series I ever read because I picked it up not knowing that it was the third in a series. So I've actually read this one probably 4 or 5 times throughout my lifetime, and I love it probably the most. It's probably my second favorite so far. But I do, you just gotta love Gregory. You just gotta love Gregory. The only thing that kind of irked me about this book was the fact that every 3 to 4 pages in this entire freaking novel, they described Gregory's eyes as molten mercury. Molten mercury. The first couple of times hearing it spread out, it's kind of like, ooh, mysterious. Sexy. After reading that fucking phrase describing his eyes 600 times, and yes, I am over dramatizing it, I was about to flip shit on Christine Feehan. Find different ways to express or to describe Gregory's eyes. Anyway, but these are both very good. I rated this one, I want to say a 3.5, and I just rated this one a 3 just because certain little things like that repetitiousness started to irk me after a while. And these are in no particular order. I'm just kind of going through them as I have them stacked. I actually read this towards the end of May, but the next one is Below by Laurel Hightower. This book is actually pretty interesting. It's very short. I sat down and read this in just one day, obviously. I'm not going to go into exactly what it's about because honestly, when you read the back, it doesn't really give you what it's really about. Like it does, but it doesn't. Needless to say, Mothman makes an appearance in this book along with a few other cryptids. The only thing that was kind of a letdown about this book was that I wanted more of Mothman specifically, and honestly I was a little confused about what role Mothman was truly playing. I do feel like there is a potential for maybe a sequel to this or some kind of like ongoing storyline that involves Mothman. I would definitely read more in this universe if Laurel Hightower does that. But it was definitely interesting. I will say that. I want to say I gave it like a 3 or 3.5 because it is enjoyable, but it's just not like my favorite. It didn't wow me, so to speak. Next up, we have one of Ed and Lorraine Warren's books, which is Satan's Harvest. I have a video going into a little more detail about this book and my feelings about it that I am going to post. I actually filmed it last month, but just did not get around to editing it. So I am going to post that video up. I was not a fan of this one, but I'll let y'all watch the video of me ranting and raving about it to figure out why. But needless to say, I rated this at like a 2.5. And that's, you know, not normal for me and Ed and Lorraine Warren's books. I normally really like them and enjoy them, but this one just read like straight fiction. But that's all I'm going to say about it. Just was not a fan of this one in particular. Up next, we have Near the Bone by Christina Henry. I fucking loved this book. It was absolutely wonderful. I want to say I gave it a 4 out of 5, if not a 5. Loved this book. If you're going into it thinking that this is solely a creature feature and that's all you want out of life, you're gonna get a lot more than you bargained for, and you might not necessarily be in love with the characters. But our main character, what was her name? Maddie. She goes through such an epic metamorphosis throughout this story, and there is a lot of creature feature. I've watched a couple of other booktubers kind of complain about this book, saying that it wasn't as much of a creature feature, which I don't really understand, because like honestly, there's very few sections of this book that the creature is not mentioned or experienced or interacted with in some way. So I don't really understand that, but definitely a fan. Definitely a huge fan. This, I think, is the first Christina Henry book that I have ever read, and I do have a couple of her other ones up on the shelf. So I will definitely be getting to those at some point soon. Next up, we have All These Subtle Deceits by C.S. Humble. I want to say I actually covered this book in a reading review not too long ago. Yeah, I did. I did a reading review. I remember things. Jesus, it's been a crazy couple of weeks, guys, so pardon the mind fuckery. This book was really cool. I liked it. It is very short. You're not going to get a whole lot of character development or plot, and at the end it does feel a little on the rushed side, I'm not going to lie, but I really want to see where this story goes, and I've already heard from the author that there will be more books coming out in this universe with these characters, hopefully. So I am excited about that, and I'm definitely on board to continue with this. Next up, we have Goddess of Filth by V. Castro. Honestly, I think this might be my favorite book of May. Very short. You could easily read this in one sitting. This book took a whole different spin on demonic possession that I was not prepared for. And it's not even quite demonic possession, but that's all I'm going to say. I'm not going to spoil it for you guys. It is beautiful. Reading it as a woman from a feminine perspective is very beautiful. There's a lot of heartfelt moments with the characters, with their own like inner monologue and their own like character development that's going on that is just absolutely gorgeous. The writing is beautiful. The interactions between the spiritual and the mundane are just mwah, chef's kiss. Loved this fucking book so much. It was just everything I wanted. It was everything I wanted. And it was everything I didn't even know that I wanted. Because I thought this was just going to be a regular run-of-the-mill demonic possession story, case closed. And I got so much more than what I bargained for. So, very good. 5 out of 5 all the way. Next up, we have The Patient by Jasper DeWitt. This was a really interesting read also. I think I gave it like a 4 out of 5, if not like a 4.5. Again, sorry about the squeaky toys. He's having a fun day. I'm going to let him be a puppy. This book was definitely also not what I expected. A lot like Goddess of Filth, I thought this was just going to be a run-of-the-mill demonic possession situation. And in some ways it was, and in a lot of ways it was not. There was a lot more to this book than meets the eye, and I really loved the combination of like mental health and psychology meets spiritual nightmare realm. I just absolutely love that. I will pick up any book that has that combination because I love psychological horror. So yes, at least a 4.5 out of 5 stars for me on The Patient. Definitely enjoyed this one. Okay, I have 2 more books left, and I'm starting to realize how much I fucking read last month, which is apparently quite a bit. I did manage to get a manga read, which is the first volume of The Hellbound by, woo! I'm just going to show you the author's names because I really don't enjoy butchering people's names. So that's the author and the artist. The artwork in this book, in this series, is wonderful. I have not watched the Netflix series just yet. Mainly because I just have been reading so much. I don't have a whole lot of time for TV. The only TV I've been making time for is Stranger Things. Love them. That's like the best show ever in the universe. But anyway, back to books. Definitely enjoyed this. I want to get volume 2, which I believe is out now. If I'm not mistaken, it might come out either at the end of this month or next month. But definitely plan on getting the volume 2 and continuing on with the series because it was really interesting. And the artwork is fucking phenomenal. So I'm excited. There were definitely some twists and turns that I kind of suspected were going to take place, but that didn't take away from the enjoyment. And honestly, the artwork itself is worth giving it a read outside of the storyline. The storyline is also really interesting though. And last but not least, we have Till We Become Monsters by Amanda Headley. First of all, if you're wondering if I picked up this book based off of the cover alone, you would be correct because it's beautiful. I immediately knew it had to be about a Wendigo. Had to be. Look at it, look at it, look at it. Yes, I understand that the whole antlers thing, deer skull thing, is not part of the original legend and folklore, but come on now. If you've watched Hannibal, you know that this means Wendigo. Just saying. This book was a gory, fucked up ride. Very short. You could probably finish this in a day or 2. I think I read it over the course of like 3 days just because I had a lot going on at the time. This book is fantastic. This book would have been a 5 out of 5 if the grammar was better. And I'm talking like minute little irksome grammar mistakes, like misspelled words, added words that didn't need to be there, little like punctuation mistakes and stuff like that. And the only reason I bring that up is because this book is riddled with them. Like, there's freaking grammar issues all throughout the book. And it gets worse towards the end, which is the part that really distracted me the most. Because by the end is all, like, this book hits heavy from day 1 and doesn't stop. But as we get that build up towards that climax of the story, it's like the punctuation and the grammar just went out the fucking window. It's like we're in a stream of consciousness and nothing is quite making sense. Which, if it was written as a stream of consciousness and that was the whole point of it, then I could get down with that. I could be okay with that. But it was very obvious that it was simply editing errors. So I don't know if Amanda Headley edited this herself or if she had an editor who was part of the publishing process. But they, I ain't gonna lie, need to be fired because they did not check this book before publishing. They didn't. So I'm not trying to hate because the actual story itself, top tier. The storytelling, the character development, the plot, the atmosphere building, everything that you want to make a beautiful story, top tier. Amanda Headley, you have some amazing creative ideas that I want to see more of. And again, sorry about the squeaky toy. Puppies. But you need a new editor. Stats. Because I am by no means like a top tier grammar expert. No. I passed grammar, so there's that. I don't know what that's worth. But at the same time, like, if I'm sitting here picking out all these little mistakes, then anyone who is remotely more literary than me, which there are quite a few, is probably tossing this book to the side without even finishing it because it's so aggravating and distracting from the story. So that's my one drawback from this book. That's why I downgraded it to a 4 out of 5 instead of a 5. If the grammar mistakes were corrected and it didn't distract so much from the story, an easy 5 out of 5 or more. That's how gut-wrenching this story was. So I still highly recommend this story, but just know going into it, there's going to be a lot of grammar issues that might distract you a wee bit. So that's it, guys. I didn't listen to any audiobooks last month. I mainly was just listening to podcasts like Lights Out and Lore. Those are my 2 favorite podcasts of all time. So I am going to be continuing to listen to those. I do have some audiobooks this month that I'm trying to get through, but I mainly just enjoy reading actual books a little better. So we'll see. I've already gotten through a couple of books this month, so I'll do another reading recap next month for this month, obviously. And I am going to try to pick back up with my normal schedule of uploading Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. If I miss a few days here and there, just know it's because I'm getting my house situated and settled, / RV. Still my home. It's a home. It's a home on wheels. But I am trying to get my life situated right now, so just bear with me. And that's pretty much it, guys. That's all I got for you today. So if you've read any of these books, let me know what you thought in the comments down below. If you enjoyed today's video, be sure to hit that like button, subscribe if you haven't already, and I will see you all in the next one. Peace out, Hell Hounds.